From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Good evening, I'm Jenny McClendon.
And I'm Alex Lawson. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Carolina Week. Tonight we'll show you some of our best stories from this past semester.
We begin with an investigative report we did in November. Every incoming Carolina student must buy a laptop computer, and many of them choose to buy their laptops through the Carolina Computing Initiative. Many of those students think they're really getting a good deal. But are they? Carolina Week's Michael Handy takes a look.
These freshman students are picking up their new IBM laptop computers as part of the Carolina Computing Initiative. This is the first laptop many of them will own. But is CCI providing students with the best computer at the best price? Information and Library Science Professor Greg Newby says no.
When you go to the UNC CCI pages, what it tells you about is how good it is and what a good idea it is to buy the CCI laptop from UNC. It really goes into no education or detail on why it might be a good deal, on how it might compare to deals you might get elsewhere.
Because CCI doesn't provide students with information about how other laptops compare to its IBM T30, we did our own investigating. We hit the phones and went to the web, building computers at Dell, Gateway, and Compaq. Here's what we found. A comparably equipped Dell laptop will cost you a bit less than $1,600. Compaq's model comes in at $1,649, and Gateway's 450L rounds out the list at $1,875. Compare that to CCI's computer, which has a base cost of almost $2,600. And if you bought the T30 direct from IBM, you could save more than $200. So what's the bottom line? CCI's computer cost anywhere from $224 to nearly $1,000 more than the other computers. Junior Emily Hodges regrets buying a CCI laptop.
I guess you feel kind of ripped off because they made it sound like you were getting a really good deal, that IBM was giving them this great discount for using their computers, and ended up being so much more than everything else.
Freshman Kylie Stott looked into other options, but she still bought a CCI laptop.
It's just the easiest thing, especially because we thought maybe we'd be using it more in our classes, so we wanted to use something that maybe the other students and the teachers would be using.
But Stott says she hasn't used the laptop in any of her classes. She now wishes she'd looked into other options before buying the CCI laptop.
CCI officials declined our request for an on-camera interview, but CCI's chairman did say that IBM makes a cheaper model. But CCI officials picked a more expensive one because they thought it would be more durable.
We turn now to the student-teacher relationship, except in this case, it has little to do with academics. UNC Chapel Hill policy forbids relationships between students and faculty members, but Carolina Week's Stephanie Lockwood tells us that some people aren't following the rules.
While most Carolina students are worrying about midterms, junior journalism major Catherine Ching has another thing on her mind, an instructor who's testing the limits of the student-professor relationship.
There have been a couple pretty forward late-night phone calls, and then he finally got up the nerve and asked me out.
Ching says the harassment didn't stop there.
He started asking me when I'm going to call him and things like that, so it's just kind of crossing a line.
According to the university's improper relationships policy, Ching's professor is crossing the line.
The policy prohibits any university employee from having a sexual relationship or non-sexual courtship with any student he or she is evaluating or supervising, but some students say a few professors and TAs seem to be ignoring it.
I had a professor that invited me and one of my friends to a hot tub party along with other females. And I also had one of my suite mates was having sex and was involved with the TA from the same class.
I knew of a professor and a student dating for a while she was his student.
When Carolina Week told UNC's sexual harassment officer Judith Scott about these allegations, she wasn't surprised.
There are some people, both men and women faculty members, who might indeed rightly earn the label of sexual predator.
But Scott says they prowl at their own risk, for if caught, they will be punished.
It could range from a letter of counseling saying that that type of behavior should never happen again, and if it did, that there would be appropriate consequences up to and including dismissal.
Scott says this also applies to tenured faculty members. In Chapel Hill, I'm Stephanie Lockwood, Carolina Week.
Our sources tell us these relationships are more common than you might think, but they're typically kept quiet.
Most people are waiting later in life to get married. Jade Biggio tells us that's not the case with some students here at Carolina.
UNC junior Janice Pierce is just like most college students, with one exception. She's married.
Honey, could you give me the toothbrush from under the sink?
Her husband Ken is a police officer. The couple married in August. Janice is only 20. Ken is 22. The young couple fits a recent trend. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, North Carolina ranks 4th in the nation for its percentage of young married couples. Janice says, like most people their age, their biggest challenge was finding somewhere to live.
Rent around Chapel Hill is so expensive that it's cheaper to live far away and just drive every day.
The couple opted to live near their parents instead of married student housing. But Santina Pitcher works for married student housing. She says there are a number of advantages for married couples who choose to live on campus.
So the convenience of being on campus, the bus system right here, the rent is a lot less expensive than you'll find in other places in Chapel Hill.
But there are no buses from Janice's house. So for an hour every morning, Janice drives and drives and eats. Janice says that after a long day of working classes, the last thing on her mind is preparing a warm-cooked meal.
Sometimes we don't have to fix the whole works, but then after we fix cereal, then you have to go in there and get on the internet and start your homework.
But despite the daily challenges, Janice sees nothing wrong with being married so young. She and Ken say it's not how old you are when you marry that's important, but how committed you are. In Zebulon, I'm Jade Biggio, Carolina Week.
There are about 30 undergraduate couples living in married student housing.
Coming up on Carolina Week, you'd be surprised where you can find some of the unhealthiest students on campus.
That story and more after the break.
Steps of Wilson Library receive no sunshine on early winter mornings, so it's chilly there if you don't have that double-shot caramel espresso. Surrounded by forever green magnolias, the steps are a fine place to study, or at least pretend to, while you watch a border collie chase a frisbee in the quad. No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
What is a hero? Are heroes born, or are they made? In after-school programs, your kids will uncover hidden strengths, discover they have the power to change their future, and find the hero inside themselves. Let us know you on after-school programs in your area. Call 1-800-USA-LEARN. After-school programs, helping kids find the hero within.
Health and fitness are on the minds of most students.
These next few stories look at health issues on campus.
First, a story about something that affects millions of Americans, cancer.
Pancreatic cancer is the 5th leading cause of cancer deaths in this country. Medical reporter Gretchen Decker has more about one North Carolina woman and the family that she left behind.
Hey, Joe. This is home video of Joanne Lane celebrating her 57th birthday shortly before she died 2 years ago.
Look at this, Miss Aubrey.
She was one of about 28,000 Americans who died from pancreatic cancer that year. Lane's son, Alan Huter, says he had never heard of pancreatic cancer before his mother's illness. He soon learned that 80% of people who have the disease die within a year.
As far as them saying it's pancreatic cancer, well, that was, to me, that was just like saying any kind of cancer. I had no clue that it was pretty much a death sentence.
Pancreatic cancer symptoms can include pain in the upper abdomen or back, yellow skin and eyes, dark urine, loss of appetite, nausea and vomiting, and weight loss.
This is the pancreas that's about 6 inches long, located behind the stomach. It makes hormones that help the body use and store energy from food. Researchers say when cancer develops, it is particularly aggressive.
Really, we don't understand what it is that specifically makes pancreatic cancer as serious a disease as it is.
Not knowing what triggers pancreatic cancer frustrates scientists and people like Huter. He misses his mother and her giving spirit.
It's just totally amazing to me that a person who is that sick and knows that, you know, death is certainly a very high possibility can take their, focus off themselves and put it on, the people around them.
Lane lived with cancer for 9 months before she died. Huter and his family took that time to say goodbye. In Fuquay-Varina, I'm Gretchen Decker, Carolina Week.
Despite the serious nature of pancreatic cancer, scientists who study the disease receive little federal money for research.
Health officials say many Americans need to hit the gym and lose some weight. Carolina Week's Ann Chafee tells us some people who need to lose the weight the least are the ones working hardest at it.
Too much of a good thing can be bad. That goes for exercise too.
Somebody who compulsively exercises might exercise 3 hours a day. They will plan their schedule around exercise. They'd feel guilty if they weren't able to exercise.
And it can definitely go beyond pleasure.
They would miss like work or parties or social things to go exercise.
Some people say compulsive exercise happens here on campus at the SRC.
I've seen girls who I've come in earlier to sign up for machines, and I've seen them in there exercising, and a couple of hours later, seriously, when I get here to exercise, they're still here exercising.
The SRC staff has noticed too.
We do try to address the issues, speak to the individual, and suggest that perhaps that they might want to look at speaking to a nutritionist
or a therapist. Social worker Michelle Johnson says a lot of times excessive exercise and disordered eating go hand in hand.
Because they feel like they don't have any control, they start controlling what they take into their body or restrict what they take into their body. And exercise is another way of controlling.
But control can get out of hand.
Even if they're hurt or they've fractured something, they want to exercise.
No pain, no gain.
The pain, even if they felt it, it's not as important as them exercising the 3 hours that they need to exercise that day.
Johnson says if you think someone close to you might have this problem, talk to them about what you've noticed, but avoid confrontation. That won't help the situation. In Chapel Hill, I'm Ann Chafee, Carolina Week.
Some students go overboard trying to stay fit, others go overboard trying to stay alert. The drug ritalin is designed to help people with ADHD, but some students are taking it to help their GPAs.
Season brings students to the library, armed with soft drinks and coffee to help them stay awake and study. But more and more, college students are skipping the caffeine and taking something stronger to help them cram. Ritalin, a stimulant prescribed to treat ADHD. Ritalin aids concentration, making studying easier. One Carolina student, we'll call him Dave, has taken Ritalin before finals.
And if I feel like that's my only option or my best option to pass an exam or to get the grade that I need to get, then I'm going to do what it takes.
But psychiatrist Alan Hamrick says taking Ritalin as a study aid is a bad option.
If you abuse a stimulant, it's like going on a credit card spending spree.
Hamrick says Ritalin sprees aren't uncommon on college campuses, including Carolina.
It's not uncommon for those individuals to be asked by other people, can I have some of your Ritalin because I need to stay up and study, things like that.
The Drug Enforcement Administration lists Ritalin as a drug of concern. It's known to have a high potential for abuse, and since 1995, it's topped the DEA's list of most stolen medications, with abusers swiping the drug wherever they can find it. Dave says finding the drug at Carolina isn't hard if you want it.
There are people that get it prescribed that realize that there's a market for it, that they can sell it per pill or sell it by the bottle.
But Hamrick says while getting the drug might be easy for abusers, getting off of it isn't.
They would experience the same types of symptoms as someone coming off of cocaine, which would be feeling slow, feeling depressed, feeling a craving of they can't be themselves without that.
If you or someone you know has a problem with Ritalin or any other substance, help is available on campus at the Center for Healthy Student Behaviors.
Carolina Week sports anchor Brad Brothers joins us now. It's been a great semester with sports, but you're here to show us a little bit more than about sports.
Yeah, it's kind of been off and on. Well, football was pretty bad, but we've had some great success with women's soccer. But aside from the playing field, coming up after the break, one Carolina athlete leads a double life, and she's on a hot streak in both her passions. Sports is next.
Smoke detector. That's me, Seymour Smoke. If you don't have a working smoke detector in your house or apartment, you could end up being smoked. So you gotta make sure you check me out at least once a month. Just push my button here. That sound tells you I'm working. So be cool about fire safety. Tell your moms and pops to have at least one smoke detector.
Gotta be cool. Be cool about fire safety.
Hey, there are a lot of ways we can help our community. Spending our money in Orange County, whether it's filling up the car or shopping at local businesses, helps maintain our roads, improves our children's schools, and creates jobs. Spending your money locally helps us all in a big way. So remember, shop Orange first.
And welcome back to Carolina Week Sports. Well, when they say athletes pull double duty, it usually refers to another position, or maybe even another sport. Carolina Week's Steve Lyerly tells us about one female Tar Heel who really cooks up a storm.
This is the story of one special athlete, Carolina sophomore Laura Garrity.
She's a very unique person, that's for sure.
No, this New Hampshire native doesn't dribble a basketball or even hit a softball. Instead, she throws a little ball, a really heavy little ball.
I do the shot, the discus, and the hammer.
She has some gifts. She's got some God-given gifts.
And those gifts shine, considering she's been throwing for only 3 years. But that didn't stop her from setting a national high school record by throwing the shot put 53 feet 11 inches.
I had the base from gymnastics, which helped a lot. I mean, it's not like most athletes that just walk into a sport cold.
She has a lot of special abilities.
Those abilities, however, aren't limited to throwing. This woman also bakes desserts. As a freshman, Laura decided the food at Lenore wasn't tip-top, but she didn't know how to cook. So she decided to employ the old saying, if you can't beat them, you might as well join them.
She kept telling me how she couldn't cook, so I said, well, then what are you doing in the cafeteria?
And they had to take me from, I burn water when I boil it, to teaching me how to bake and decorate cakes.
But pastry chef Katrina Bean thinks the shot put champion has a natural knack for cooking.
She's fabulous. Oh, she can do anything in here. It's wonderful. Makes me look bad.
I've made enough Rice Krispie treats to choke a horse.
So she's one heck of a cook, throws the shot and the hammer. But honestly, how heavy can this little ball be? It's pretty heavy. But it seems she handles it just fine, just like everything else she does.
Her constant drive to become the best she can be is second to none.
And her peers believe that attitude will be her recipe for success in the future. In Chapel Hill, Steve Lyerly, Carolina Week.
Garrity injured a knee during indoor track season, last season, but she's confident that her training during this past offseason will help her win the ACC as a redshirt freshman. The indoor track season begins January 11th with the North Carolina Big 12 college meet. Well, we've all heard that a broken mirror brings 7 years of bad luck, but have you ever thought a special headband or pair of socks could help your athletic performance? Brittany McGraw tells us the superstitions of a few Carolina athletes and what effect they really have on the game.
Some are quirky, some are unusual, and some are just downright strange. Though these adjectives might apply to some of Carolina's athletes, they better describe these athletes' superstitions. Superstitions such as soccer player Annie Morels need to sit in the same spot at each team meeting.
If I'm not in that spot before the other person gets there, then it throws me off. I have to get her to leave the room, and then I have to come in again.
Place kicker Dan Orner's superstition is all in the bag.
My green laundry bag, I think that's my best luck. I've missed, the only time I've missed is when I used a red bag. So, I don't know if it really plays a part, but I think it helps for the mind, definitely.
sports psychologist John Silva agrees that the positive or negative effects of a superstition are all in an athlete's head.
An athlete might, want to wear a certain piece of apparel to the ballpark or to the locker room pre-game, and they think that this is like my lucky piece of apparel. Yet that's an inanimate object, and that inanimate object has no relationship whatsoever, to the player actually playing well.
Even though players may avoid stepping on the lines of the field to sidestep bad luck, these superstitions have no effect on the game, and a continual belief in them may adversely affect an athlete. Silva suggests in place of superstitions, athletes develop an attitude like that of cornerback Michael Waddell.
I don't have any superstitions, really.
As well as a regular, yet flexible, routine. In Chapel Hill, I'm Brittany McGraw, Carolina Week.
According to Dr. Silver, highly superstitious and ritualized behavior is often a sign of anxiety. Now, guys, over the break, we'll see if the women's soccer team can win their national championship, 21st straight Final Four, and the men's basketball to a great start. We'll see if they can build on that.
Let's hope so.
Now, guys, do you have any superstitions before you get on the air?
I don't. Jane, do you have any?
Got to do that lucky handshake with our news director, Dr. Tuggle.
That's
Gotta
right.
do
I
it.
would say that's one, too.
It's the lucky snap, so have a great holiday season,
All right,
guys.
thanks, Brad.
Same to you, Brad. Oh, will it be a harsh winter?
This caterpillar may have the answer. We'll take you to the Blue Ridge Mountains for the annual Woolly Worm Festival.
I wonder how Silent Sam feels about guarding the university from groups of third-grade kids. Maybe he's lost interest. We haven't heard his rifle fire recently. Still he stands, a steadfast defender of something. What is it? No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292. You can also visit us online at carolinaweek.org. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNCCH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27599.
Halloween might be long gone, but there's one costume shop that's still open for business, just not the business you might think.
Carolina Week's Benton Smith takes us to a place that's a little out of the way and a little out of the ordinary.
In the outskirts of Sanford, there is a small business called Brickyard Junction. And naturally, it's your one-stop shop for all your costume, salon, and tanning needs. Wait a minute. What? Junction's owner, Pat Sharp, combined her three loves into one business. Surprisingly, she says that other months of the year don't compare with October and costume sales.
They're good, but they don't compare with Halloween. That's my sideline business the rest of the year. I hairdress. That's my profession. That's how I make a living.
Sharp has just about anything you could ever need for Halloween. I don't know where I'd be without a $100 bow tie and a snug pair of Halloween tights.
These props, wigs, and costumes are made for fun and entertainment. But what happens when they're used to aid fugitives of justice?
Isn't it possible for anyone to come in here and purchase a disguise? And couldn't it be used to dodge authorities?
October is a very big business, so we see more clientele during October.
Don't dodge the question, Miss Sharp, if that is your real name. Carolina Week obtained video of a shifty-eyed drifter who looks up to no good. Is anyone safe? In Sanford, I'm Benton Smith, Carolina Week. Or am I?
Now you know where to go for a costume, a haircut, and an artificial tan.
Maybe you don't need a tan or a haircut. If you're in the mood for something a little more down home, Carolina Week's Aaron Dupois has just the place.
You don't have to ride too far out of town to feel like you've stepped into another world. Time moves just a little more slowly at Mapleview Farm, where every cow has a name and where the milk goes into glass bottles.
Remember me?
Russ Siebert is the farm manager. He says customers see the farm as more of a family setting than a business.
We're not out to
to make $1 million just trying to make a living and stay in the business that we really enjoy. The funnest part probably is when you get a newborn little heifer calf. Those are nice.
This is where it all starts, with the babies. Owner Robert Nutter has been in the business a long time.
We've been milking cows since 1919. We've bred a lot of good Holstein cattle, and we've produced a lot of good quality milk.
One customer told me the secret to its taste.
They say the glass jars is what makes it so much better.
The farm was one of the area's best kept secrets until the folks here started making ice cream. Their country store opened 2 Januaries ago, and it's been swamped ever since. One young customer couldn't decide which she liked better, the ice cream or the calves.
Well, I like the ice cream, and when you go to see the farm over there, you get to see the baby cows, and I like that too. They sort of drool on your hand, and when you go away, they move. They want you to come back.
And people are coming back. Any time of day, you'll find a farmhand or a 5-year-old rocking on the porch, enjoying one of the homemade flavors and the view. In Orange County, I'm Erin Dupois, Carolina Week.
Jenny, that ice cream sure looks good.
It really did, but it's getting kind of cold outside for ice cream, don't you think?
I think so, but if you are interested, and maybe you are a big ice cream fan or just want to get out of town, Maple View Farm is about 15 minutes north of Chapel Hill on Homestead Road. Nestled in the highlands of North Carolina, you'll find the small town of Banner Elk, home of the Woolly Worm Festival. For 25 years, locals and tourists have gathered to race their worms for fun and for charity, and to find out how cold the coming winter will be in western North Carolina.
Right here, get your winners. Increase your chances of winning. Buy here.
They come from everywhere
We got a Utah worm, Florida worm, South Carolina, North Carolina.
to race these fuzzy little black and brown critters. Some are lucky,
It is hot legs,
and some are.
He's a little heartbroken over it.
Event organizer Herb Isaac.
The winning worm at the final heat of today is a $1,000 winner, and that worm is red to predict the weather for this coming winter.
Each woolly worm has 13 segments on its body, which represent the 13 weeks of winter. Now, according to the legend, if the woolly worm has more black segments on its body, we can expect a more cold and harsh winter. But if the woolly worm has more brown segments on its body, we can expect a more mild winter. Jim Morton is a Carolina graduate and founder of the festival.
You just don't know which worm to trust. And so some sort of method was needed to choose the worm we're going to trust to determine what sort of winter forecast we want.
For the most part, it's all about having fun. Just ask Dr. Susan Pulse. She's been coming for 23 years. 11 years ago, she created her own practice at the festival.
I just saw a need. I saw worms getting hurt. We have all ages come by the Woolly Worm Hospital, and I have about 400 little things, little crutches that are made out of toothpicks, and it's just everybody it gives them a smile.
All right, here comes
It's not the only thing they have to smile about. All the money raised stays local. It helps the school system and the local Chamber of Commerce. But more importantly, these squirmy little guys and gals put Banner Elk on the map. The winners of this year's festival were Dan Walsh of Corpus Christi, Texas, and his worm, Hank. According to Hank, the first 5 weeks will be cold and snowy weather, followed by 4.5 weeks of mild winter, and then another 3.5 weeks of cold and snowy weather. It sure would be great to see some snow this year.
Some, not too much.
Not too much.
Got to be able to get home for Christmas, home for the holidays.
I agree. We need to see a little bit, though. Well, whatever happens, we hope you survive the winter, and somehow we'll try to survive next semester without some key staff members who are graduating in December.
Goodbye and good luck to producer-reporter Erin Dupois, director Kat Mashinsky, technical directors Joe Sullivan and Jennifer Griffiths, reporter Ashley Kendrick, sports reporter Benton Smith, sports anchor Steve Lyerly, and executive producer Missy Sowery.
We'll see you next year with new stories, new shows, and a new crew. Until then, good night.
Good night.